Hi everyone out there, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. I thought that today I would do a Q&A, a little bit more of a casual video just to sit down and chat with you all about some different things, you know, just answering some questions. I got all kinds of different questions on all kinds of different topics, so I've tried to sort of pick and choose some of the best ones. I'm gonna keep this Q&A a little bit more personal-ish, I guess. And I haven't done one of these videos in a very long time. I think it's been over a year since I did my last Q&A. So that's what we're doing today. So let's just dive right in. Question number one is, how did you get such clear skin? Actually, quite a few of you guys asked me this. My skin isn't, 100% perfectly clear at all times. I definitely do experience the odd breakout, but I'd say my skin is fairly clear most of the time. I do have a couple of videos on like skincare, the products that I use, and also some tips. My skin will definitely experience more of a breakout if I'm eating a lot of really like starchy or carby, sugary foods. Obviously, I love to eat my carbohydrates, but I'm just talking like if I'm eating a lot of like bread and pasta and rice and like a lot of those kinds of things in the week or over a couple of weeks, like my skin can definitely, like I see it through my skin for sure. Next question. This one makes me giggle a little bit. How are you so calm all the time? So this question is a little bit of a misconception, I have to say. Like, I wouldn't consider myself someone who is calm all of the time. That's definitely not a defining characteristic of what I'm like. I think that one of the reasons why I probably come across as though I'm calm all the time is a couple of things. One, when I'm, sitting down, I'm in a quiet room talking to a camera, there's not a lot going on, nothing too stimulating for me, so I'm pretty calm in that sense. But also the way that I film my videos, the type of background music that I like to choose is usually on the softer side, so I can see why I would come across as being a very calm person. But yeah, like I don't even know how to answer that really. If anything, I definitely am someone who can get overwhelmed pretty easily. I mean, I do my best to stay calm. That's not to say that I'm never calm. I definitely can be calm. But next question is, would you consider yourself as introverted? And yes, I would consider myself as introverted. I really relish in solitude and alone time. That's definitely how I recharge. I find that I get drained really easily if I'm around like large groups of people or in busy areas for too long of a period of time. Now, that's not to say that I don't enjoy those things either. I actually quite enjoy like going out on a Friday or Saturday night. I love spending time with people, but yeah, I would say that I definitely am more of an introvert. Tea or coffee? Tea, 100%. I'm actually not even a coffee drinker at all whatsoever. Like, I don't even drink coffee, so definitely tea. I do love all kinds of herbal tea. Yeah, tea. I don't drink coffee because too much caffeine makes me anxious and jittery. Next question, what level are you in at NBS, which is Canada's National Ballet School, and what level did you start at? I liked this question. So for those of you who don't know, I have been taking ballet classes for almost 2 years now. The way that they structure it is there's level 1, level 1, 2, level 2, level 2, 3, 4, and so on, up until I think level 9. So I'm at 1, 2. In September, I will be in level 2. I did have to do like an intro to ballet course first, which was a couple of months long because I started as an adult. What are your likes and dislikes about living in Toronto? I thought that this was a good question. I grew up in the GTA, being the greater Toronto area, but I did move downtown Toronto a year and a half ago or so. The likes would be how everything is so accessible. I love that there are restaurants everywhere and cafes and there's things to do, and I sold my car and so I walk everywhere. I love that. The dislikes would probably be how noisy the city can be. It can be really busy. There's construction friggin' everywhere you go, it seems. Who knows, like, I'm not sure how long we'll live here for. Next question is, are you or were you raised religious? So I have 2 brothers. We were I guess raised religious, like Presbyterian, but like I didn't grow up in a heavily religious household or anything like that, but like we went to church sometimes, and I definitely, like when I think back to my childhood, I had a belief in God. But as I got older, as I entered my teens and especially my late teens, I started to develop my own beliefs. I started to question things, and I would not consider myself religious in my life now. However, I'm very spiritual, and I love talking about these things. I love thinking about these things. I'm also very philosophical. I actually quite like these subjects, like I don't know, just like life and where we came from, but I wouldn't say that I have any religious affiliation. Do you have staple meals that you cook weekly, or do you always cook differently? I would say like a bit of both. Absolutely, we have our staple meals that I like to cook like again and again and again. I love doing ginger sesame stir fries. I love doing oven roasts with, you know, chicken breasts or chicken thighs and root veggies. Probably a lot of my like staple meals and recipes are on my blog if you want some recipe inspiration, so I'll leave my blog linked below. But at the same time though, we also, like, I enjoy cooking lots of different things, especially because like Sean and I love all different kinds of cuisines. We love Mexican food, we love Indian food is so good, French food. The next question, I had a lot of you guys ask me about some tips for IBS and just like the best diet for IBS. I have actually a couple different videos here on my channel on tips for gut health and improving your gut health. So I will leave those linked below. I would say if you have irritable bowel syndrome, to definitely look into the low FODMAP diet. But there's a lot of things that we can do to support and to improve our gut health. There's different supplements that we can take. Probiotics can be really helpful. Obviously, eliminating like our triggers or just understanding what our food triggers are. Food journaling is really useful here as well. If you guys want more information, I have a 4-week online program called the Digestive Reset Program that I developed and launched last year. I'll leave that link below if you want to learn more. We dive into all this stuff. A lot of you guys had some relationship questions here. How did you meet your boyfriend who made the first move? I like this question. Oh, brings me back to the day that we met. So Sean and I met almost 3 years ago now. Actually, we met at Humber River Valley here in Toronto, which is very close to Old Mill. We met through friends. So I was going out that evening with a group of friends for a birthday gathering, and I guess with Sean's group of friends, he was also going out that night. There was a bonfire there, there was the river, we were in the park, people were sitting on blankets, and I was sitting on a blanket with a couple of my friends. He was sitting kind of yonder on his blanket with a couple friends, and we just like locked eyes, really. I just remember I remember seeing him and thinking, I need to meet him. Like, I feel like I've never seen anybody like this guy before. I know that sounds so cheesy. There were a couple moments where like we were like both looking directly at each other, like completely, we were aware that we were looking at each other, you know, that kind of moment. And then what happened was he stood up at one point and walked over to the bonfire. And he was sort of standing there, and then I took that as my opportunity to be like, oh, I'm gonna go stand by the fire. So I stood up, walked over to the fire, and he introduced himself, and that was pretty much how we met. And then we literally spent the rest of that evening at this kind of park party talking. It was just him and I, like we just clicked immediately. And I just remember how deeply I felt a connection with him. By the end of the night, everyone was like, we're going home, what are you guys doing? And we randomly went to this Korean restaurant, and like I had like a green tea or something, and we just chatted. And at this point it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then we were like, let's like go out next weekend together. And then that was when we had our first like proper date the following weekend, which is a whole other story. It was the best day of my life because it lasted like 16 hours. Does living in a studio apartment feel hard with needing your own space? So it's a good question. We live in a really small space. This apartment is 365 square foot. And you would think that like being in such close quarters all the time would like be difficult, but actually it has not been a problem for us at all whatsoever living in a small space together. It's it's been completely fine. Part of that is because we just get along well, like our personalities just mesh. But then in terms of needing our own space, so the funny thing here is that I work from home, so I'm alone a lot of the time, and Sean, he's a lawyer, so he sometimes works really long hours, not all the time, but sometimes. And so if anything, like, I'm like excited for him to come home. Like, I feel like I want him to come home because I'm often alone a lot. So it just works out pretty well. However, all this being said, we are actually moving. I'm so excited. We'll have a little bit more space. We'll have an actual bedroom. We'll have like a living room, a little balcony, and we're gonna be closer to like more park space. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, is just more greenery. Oh, my legs are getting uncomfortable. I'm sitting cross-legged. What is the next question? Here it is. Okay, next question. Next question is how, this was an interesting question. I kind of was like, I don't even know how to answer this, but I think I kind of understand what the question is. How has minimalism affected your love life and your relationships? For me, I'm lucky because Sean is actually inherently quite a minimalist by nature. That's just his personality. I remember that night that we met, we were like talking about that. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, we had so much in common. And I would honestly say like 100% he is way more of a minimalist than I am even. But in terms of like relationships in general, obviously not everyone's gonna be interested in decluttering or simplifying their lives or shopping less. I think that where it can get a little bit tricky is around like the holiday time and like with gift giving and things. And I think that with that, it's just important to communicate what you do want, what you don't want. And I think that people just start to get used to what your preferences are. And also, you know, even if you are feeling like, oh, I wish so-and-so would live a little bit more simpler, or wish they were a little bit more minimalist, it's never a good idea to like push your perspectives onto people. And instead just going about your life, doing your thing, and maybe you'll inspire someone along the way, or someone will learn something from you. What's it like to work for yourself? This was a good question. How do you stay motivated? Also, I had a lot of questions about how did I get started with nutrition and becoming a holistic nutritionist. I have answered that in a couple of Q&As, and I also have a whole blog post on kind of my journey to like becoming self-employed, so I will leave those linked below. All in all, it's been really great. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I love that I have, you know, total creative control over the things that I do. I love that I get to make all of the executive decisions, and you know, I have a very flexible schedule. It also is a lot, like it can be a lot. And obviously this depends on exactly the type of work that you do. And if you have employees, right? A lot of people hire on help if they become self-employed. I am not at a point where I have done that yet. There are definitely times where I'm like, oh, I could really use some help with certain things. But no, I do everything by myself, all of my content planning, content creation, editing, all of the back-end tasks that you guys never see, writing, brainstorming, troubleshooting, like taxes, accounting, like anything administrative, email, like everything. Yeah, I don't know. Hope I'm painting an okay picture here. There's definitely pros and cons is what I'm trying to say. There's pros and there are cons to working for yourself. Another thing that I totally didn't even realize or anticipate after I quit my job was how the lack of social interaction by being self-employed and working by myself, how that was going to affect my mental health. And it really has, because before I was working alongside other people and we had a really, you know, close-knit team, and I had just that consistent social interaction every single day, and I don't anymore. It can be lonely. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, sometimes I feel really isolated and lonely. Like, I don't know a ton of other entrepreneurs, especially in the world of like YouTube and like social media. Like, I don't know that many other people who do what I do. It's definitely, you got to make more of a conscious effort to like reach out to people and like connect with others. It's been so important for me. But then also a bunch of you guys had asked, like, how do you stay motivated? Do you ever feel lazy? And if so, what do you do about it? And yeah, if you're self-employed, you definitely need to have that that aspect of self-motivation. You need to be able to get yourself up and motivated and doing things, because your income, your success, whatever, depends on you doing work and carrying out the tasks that you have set for yourself. Do I ever feel unmotivated? Oh yeah, totally. Totally I do. But for the most part, I'm generally able to stay on task, and I do that by, I always have my to-do list. I make sure that I'm referring to it every morning, sometimes in the evening, and just making sure that I know the things that I have to do and keeping those tasks also doable. Otherwise, it can just feel so overwhelming. And that's pretty much everything that I wanted to answer today. Of course, there were so many questions, but I tried to just sort of narrow this down to a bunch that I felt that I could answer. Thank you so much for watching and for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, even if just for the sake of having a bit of a chit chat, getting to know me a little bit better. Thanks again for being here. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.